Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have the honor and privilege of having Dr. Hakan Gok with us. Hakan Gok will talk on religion, dialogue, and science. Uh, Hakan Gok is a research fellow at the Center for Governance, Leadership, and Global Responsibility at Leeds Beckett University. Hakan obtained his master's and PhD in the UK. He studied atheism, theism, focusing on the philosophy of Saïd Nursi, earning his PhD degree from Durham University. Hakan's research interests are the problem of evil and suffering, arguments for and against the existence of God, atheists' philosophy, life and discourse of Ghazzālī, Rūmī and Sirhindī. He is on the advisory board of Mevlana International Journal of Moral and Values Education. His previous papers are Multiculturalism in Turkey, Possible Solutions to the Kurdish Issue from the Risāle-i Nur, Is Peaceful Coexistence Possible? Case of Mevlana Jalāluddīn Rūmī, a comparison between Ahmad Sirhindī and Saïd Nursi, and Albert Camus and Saïd Nursi on the problem of evil. He is also the author of Atheism or Theism, The Perspective of Saïd Nursi, editor of the selected readings from the Risāle-i Nur, and co-editor of India, Turkey, History, Culture, and Politics. You're welcome, Mr. Hakan Gok. You have up to 3 hours for today's session, and you're more than welcome to conduct it however you like to. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon if you are in India, and good morning if you are in England. I'm in England, so it's good morning to me. That's why you'll be seeing me sipping my tea, because it's just morning, 9:30 in Leeds. Thanks for this beautiful introduction. I can see up to 15 people in the room. I'll briefly introduce myself, and I will ask everybody in the room to briefly introduce themselves so that we can have an active engagement. My name is Hakan. I am a physicist and a philosopher. So I sort of shifted my research from physics into philosophy and social science, therefore. I am interested in philosophical and social topics, and I've been actively engaging dialogue studies in different parts of the world. I work at Leeds Beckett University. We think it's the best university in Leeds, but Leeds University thinks the other way. So there are several universities in Leeds. Leeds University is the biggest one, but we are as good. I work at the Center for Governance, Leadership, and Global Responsibility. I work with Professor Simon Robinson. Probably you have seen him or heard of him. When In Dialogue approached me and asked me to run a session, I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go, but I'll do something unorthodox, unconventional. Probably you have heard of a lot of theoretical lectures so far. But what I want to do today, we're going to have 2 parts today. The first part, I will share my views and experience and my reflections. And in the second part, after a mini break, we are going to have an active engagement, and we are going to ask questions, and we are going to have a debate. I have planned this session to be 60 minutes, but as Behzad says, it's going to be sort of flexible and open-ended. If it goes well, we can extend it a little. But if people start leaving the room or start checking their tweets, I understand it's time to end. That's a good indication. So we're going to see how it goes. You're going to hear a lot from me, because this is mainly about my personal reflections and experience over the years. But before I do that, I will briefly ask everybody in the room to introduce themselves briefly under a minute. So there is a time limit there. So tell me about yourself in 60 seconds. So I'm going to start from my screen. The first participant I can see is Tawsif Ahmed. So you unmute your microphone, Tawsif, and tell us about yourself in 60 minutes.
Hey, hi Hakan. This is Tawsif here. I'm from Bangalore, India. I'm a software engineer by profession, and I am here, participating in the dialogue studies to know more about the different cultural activities in terms of dialogue, how dialogue can be implemented in various aspects of the conversation. And it has been a very good journey for me for last 1.5 months now. Got an opportunity to hear from a lot of good men and women from the industry, and I continue this journey. And today it's going to be a more iterative in terms of how you're going to take it and your learnings as well. So hope to gather as much as information as possible.
Okay, thank you, Tawsif. Now, the room is very dynamic. The screens are always changing, but the second one I can see is Mohammed Baligh. Mohammed, the floor is yours. You got 60 minutes. Go.
Hello, sir. This is Mohammed Baligh from Hyderabad. I'm a postgraduate in geopolitics and international relations. My area of research is South Asian regional security. I choose to be a part of this course since I want to understand how dialogue plays its role in different in different religions, and how we can cooperate. How can we learn about cooperation through dialogue?
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. Now the next participant is Jawed Asafi. Jawed, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. Here is good afternoon. I don't know about there. I'm Jawed Asafi from Kabul, Afghanistan, and I'm freshly graduated from India, and I came back to Kabul, Afghanistan. I did my master's in chemistry, and I'm working now in Kabul University as a biochemistry technical assistant. And I choose dialogue course because it was very interesting for me to apply, because it is very important nowadays to apply dialogue instead of debate. So it was very important, and till now I'm enjoying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jawed. Right, the next participant is Sokidillo Mirza Kerimov. Unmute your microphone and your 60 seconds starts now.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Hakan. My name is Sokidillo. Like international friends call me Saïd shortly, easily. So I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm a teacher. I've studied in the schools which were inspired by Gülen movement. Now, I've taught in them as well. I'm a teacher in this kind of schools. I wanted to see different viewpoints around the world about dialogue. Nice to meet you.
Okay. So welcome to the session, Saïd. So it is going to be easier to call you Saïd. In England, guys, this is off the record. People call me Ken. So you go to university or my workplace and ask for Hakan, no one knows. If it's Ken, everybody knows me. I simplified it. It's a common practice. So I sort of anglicize my name, and Ken is sort of half of my name. So there. So the next participant is Vishal Prasad. Vishal, your 60 seconds starts now.
Hello, sir. I'm Vishal Prasad, and I did my graduation from economics and currently pursuing my master's in the same discipline. I'm from Bihar, India, and I chose this course because I had lots of free time and wanted to do something which is intellectually stimulating, and also because pretty much interested in writing arguments and understanding the process of archiving the dark arguments. So that is why I chose this course.
I'm quite proud you want to use your free time to study. These days, most people use their free time for Netflix. So well done, Vishal. So you chose education over entertainment. So we'll try to make this session very entertaining. Thank you for joining. The next person looks quite in the dark. I hope his life is not in the dark. Ashuruddin. Do I pronounce it correctly?
Yes,
Ashuruddin.
Yes, sir. My camera is not working. That's why I couldn't turn it on.
Okay.
So, my name is Asharuddin. I'm from Kerala, India. So I'm doing my master's in peace and conflict studies in Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. So I'm indeed delighted of being a part of this wonderful team and enjoying the greatness of this knowledge and mutual sharing. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. So the next participant is Deepti. Do I pronounce it correctly?
You're right.
Okay. You know, in Britain, we have a little country called Wales. Okay. So their language is really crazy. There is no vowels in it. So you have a long town name. There is absolutely no vowel in it. And you have absolutely no idea how to pronounce it. Very exciting. But I can pronounce Indian names fairly easily because you pronounce almost like you spell. So, Deepti.
Thank you. I mean, you spelled it very well, in fact. Okay, I'm Deepti Raghavendra. I'm a professor at a management college here. I've been interested in dialogue for quite some time. So when this came up, I was hoping that I also get into this particular. I was worried that age limit might be a problem. In fact, all our youngsters. But luckily, somehow, I think they were generous enough. So I'm here to learn as much as possible from all others. Since we practice in the classrooms, but I wanted to know the theoretical side as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining in. So the next participant is Abdul Kalam Azad.
Hello, sir. Very well. Good morning to you, sir. This is Abdul Kalam Azad. I am from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Currently, I am working as a mathematics teacher in O levels. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nitya.
Hello, sir. Yeah, I'm Nitya from India, and I'm placed in a state called Bihar in India. And I have pursued my MPhil and PhD in psychoanalysis as a discipline. And I'm really, what really entices me is the theoretical and the philosophical depth of any discipline. So that is something that really pulls me. But I'm here also to understand the ideas and the ideological groundings of dialogue, but also its practicality, that how do I practice it into my day-to-day life so that to really find the meaning and value in every encounter that happens through dialogue towards a transformative society. So thank you so much.
Thank you for joining in Nitya. Thank you. Right, the next participant on the screen is Ziaul Haq.
Hello, sir. First of all, thank you for making this session very interactive. Sir, I'm Ziaul from Delhi. I completed my master's and MPhil in development studies. And right now I am pursuing PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University. And I joined this course because I find this dialogue and debate is very important for our society, especially in contemporary society. That's why I joined this course, to learn different approach and understanding and perspective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome to the session. And the next participant is Sabiha. Sabiha, the floor is yours.
Good morning, sir. My name is Sabiha More, and as you love sociology, so do I. I believe that all human interaction are extremely important to sustain this world. If sustainability has to come into being, then sociology is the first thing that we need to learn, and learn to coexist with each other. Well, I'm a teacher educator for last 30 years. Deepti said she's the eldest. I want to make her wrong. I'm the eldest here. I've been a professor for last 30 years. I have done 9 masters in 9 different subjects. I've enrolled for 2 more, so that will be 11 masters. And I have done 2 PG diploma course. And yet the zest for learning has never lowered. My graph has always increased. I always feel the more you learn, the better you become. And you also become a role model for your students. For if they say that they are tired of learning, I always show them my biodata and say that since I'm not tired, you have no right to be tired. And I come from a very conservative Muslim family. And if anything I'm able to do and mark in this world, it is only through the ladder of education. So I respect, love, die, crave, engage into dialogue so that I can become a better human being. And when I leave this world, I leave some impact too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you're going for Guinness Book of Records with all those masters and PhDs. Did you check if there is another person who has got as many degrees as you?
Somebody has done 12 master. So another 2 years, I'll have 13. So that's okay.
You're getting there. Once you're in the book, I'm going to show off to my friends. I say, I know her. I met her. So
somebody has done 12. I will be doing 13th in next 2 years. So that's okay, sir. It's okay. So
keep going, keep going. And this motivates everybody. There is no limit to learning. You can learn, all through your life. I can see the upper half of the next speaker, Urosa Mushtaq. Now I can see the full face of Urosa. Go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, sir. My name is Urosa. I'm from Jammu Kashmir, but right now I'm based in the UK. I am pursuing my PhD on intercultural dialogue. My case study is Jammu and Kashmir. And I joined this course because I wanted the different perspectives on intercultural dialogue. I mean, ever since our first session, it has been quite interesting because there is only so many books that you can read. But then when you listen to other people, you get through to a lot of perspectives. So that was why I wanted to do this course. And so far, it's been
where do you study your PhD, Rosa?
So I'm a co-tutel student at Coventry University and Deakin University.
Okay, very close nearby. I am based in Leeds, so Coventry is only like 3 hours. Besides, England is a very small country. I mean, it's nothing to compare to India. So basically in England, from East Coast, which is Hull, you can drive to West Coast, which is Liverpool, in like 2.5 hours. So very small country, but we have a lot of people living in England. Very populous, but very small. Right, moving on to the next participant. I can't see the person, but I think the name is Shabissa Naz. If you're in the room, you have 60 seconds to introduce yourself, Shabissa. Well, I don't think there is anyone there. So I just pass to Meryem.
Hello, sir. I am from Turkey, but currently live in Bangladesh. And I studied English language and literature. Now I am doing masters on TESOL. And that's all.
And what is the connection between dialogue and English language? Are you doing it as a hobby or are you planning to change career?
No, at university sometimes we have some discussion and just why we need dialogue. And
okay.
in English area, I can use it. That's why.
Okay. Okay, nice to meet you, Meryem. The next participant is almost the same name, Maria.
Good morning, sir, and good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Maria Niazi, and I have completed my master's in peace and conflict from Jamia Millia Islamia, but it's been a while now. And I mean, we did have subjects like conflict transformation and dialogue studies when I was doing my master's. Then I shifted to UK for a year, but I could not pursue any, education over then, and I came back. So it's just that I wanted to take up something in dialogue studies, and this course was very interesting. I thought this is an opportunity to just extend my, knowledge, what I had of that master's. So that is why I got involved in this course. And simultaneously, I'm doing a certificate course in international humanitarian law. So yeah, it's just
okay.
I wanted to get engaged into a course like that.
Okay, lovely. Nice to have you in the room.
Thank you.
Right, the next person, I don't think her name is MacBook Air, but that's how it appears on the screen. She must be the real fan of Apple, so.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Meenakshi. Okay, I'll change my name. So I'm here, dialogue studies is very much new to me. So I'm just here to learn more about this subject. And as of now, I'm liking all the lectures and looking forward to have a good lecture with you.
Okay, thank you for joining in. And the next person is Mushtaq.
Good morning, Dr. Hakan. This is Mushtaq. I am from Srinagar, Kashmir, and by profession I am a high school teacher and as well as an independent researcher. So I have done my MPhil from Kashmir University on the topic of Mawlānā Maududi's concept of Islamic State and evaluation. So I keep writing on different issues.
Okay, nice to have you in the room. And the next person is Urida Rafiqi. I can't see Urida, but her name is on the screen. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Urida Rafiqi. I am from Jammu and Kashmir as well. I have done my bachelor's in economics and I'm currently pursuing MA in development from MIJMVE University. Since I opted for this course because I was deeply interested in understanding the non-violent movements and just become a better learner.
Okay, right. I think we have covered almost everybody. As I said, this is going to be a bit non-conventional. It's not going to be like, lots of PowerPoint slides and I'm just reading off the slides. So it's not going to be like that. I'll just share my experience. But I made a slide to show you what this session is all about. I'll briefly show it to you and you're going to be seeing me for the most of the lecture. So the theme of today is religion, dialogue, and science, because I have been involved in all these areas. I'm a scientist by trade, physicist. I studied philosophy and theology, and I've been actively engaging in dialogue studies. I started a master's degree with California University on conflict resolution, but it never took off. So we sort of drafted the program, but we could never realize it because of some political events happened. So dialogue and conflict resolution is sort of my sub-interest field. The subtitle of the session is Reflection, Memories, and Experience in the Western Context. Before I returned to Britain, I worked in Rūmī Peace Institute. I was the director there. It was a unique place because it was one of the stopovers for interfaith dialogue pilgrimage, if I may use this word. And over the years, I had chance to meet a lot of people, a lot of intellectuals, because they were interested in dialogue and they were interested in understanding other cultures. So when they came, they visited the historical places and they visited my center, which was called Rūmī Peace Institute. And I thought it might be a good idea to share my interaction with people from all around the world. Therefore, the subtitle is Reflection and Memories and Experience. So you're going to be hearing a lot of them. As I said, I am currently working at Leeds Beckett University. And I also teach 2 courses in a US institute. It is a remote course. It's one of them is a certificate course. The other one is for master's degree. You might be asking why I had this shift from science to social science. The story is interesting. I did teaching for many years in Britain. I was teaching physics. And one thing I noticed, a lot of people, once they realize you are not originally English, I mean, they can tell from your accent that you are originally from somewhere else. I had a lot of interesting conversation with students, and it's not about physics, obviously, because they were quite bored in the lab, and they were asking a lot of metaphysics questions, not physics questions. It was about religion, culture, and issues around them. And in 2008, I thought maybe it is a good idea to shift my focus to another field in academia. And I picked up the subject of philosophy and philosophy of religion. I never regret nearly 12 years on, and I quite enjoy engaging audience on social science matters. I live in England and I'm a Muslim, and it puts us in a unique position. There are lots of public perceptions, media view in Britain, and you are always jostling to adjust yourself and locate yourself at a healthy position. There are mainly 2 distinct positions in the West. One is very populist, you know, right-wing, nationalist. These people, they are anti-dialogue, anti-foreign, if I may use this word. And it is very difficult to engage with those people. But great majority of people in Britain, they are very open-minded. I find this quite amazing, because I always thought, oh, in the West, they hate us, they hate Eastern people, they hate Muslims. But the reality is, ordinary people on the street, they are quite interested in learning about you, learning about your culture, and engage intellectually with you. So it gives you a unique chance to express yourself to the general audience in the West. They expect 2 types of religious people. One group is analyzing the revelation and picking up the bits and forming a doctrine of conflict. Probably you have this type of people in where you live, because when I was little, I used to have 2 versions of religion. I mean, my mom was a practicing person, and she encouraged me to be a good believer and practicing believer. And she encouraged me to, you know, go to place of worship and interact with practicing people. Before long, I noticed, I said, hang on, these people, they are speaking from the same source, but they are drawing two different pictures. It is the same in the Muslim context and from the context of other religions. Because religion is very flexible and very bendy. I mean, you can sit with this person, with an extremist, and he's going to quickly convince you that position of conflict is the default position in religion. They're going to show you lots of verses. And you go to other type of people, they're going to convince you quickly that dialogue, tolerance, and living together in peace is the default position. So which one is it? Which one should we go for? Obviously, there is enough material in the religious texts for the both. I'll focus on the Islamic approach first. And in the meantime, if you can make your questions noted down, in the second part, we can interact more. And by all means, you can contradict with my position, because it's an open platform and I'm not here to doctrinate anybody. I'm just speaking my experience and my feelings. So not everybody has to agree on the same view. So we are quite open to disagree, which is fine. So feel free, don't be intimidated. One thing I noticed, people who promote conflict and struggles using religion as argument usually speaks to less literate people. Again, I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm just making a scientific observation, and this is my finding. You can disagree. How do they do that? For example, when you study a text, you're all academics, you put the text into the context. You simply cannot take and trim the edge of the text and show the audience, look, this is what it says. This is academically unacceptable. You have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because you need to know the flow and the development and the context to understand the meaning of the message. Why am I telling you this? At some point, I was really interested in jihadis. I said, how could they do this? I mean, what is their motivation? I mean, how could they murder people? Then I looked into the way they argue. What they do is exactly what I just mentioned. When I said to this guy, I said, how come you are trying to recruit people and inviting them to armed struggles? You know, terrorizing people. They said, no, we are just defending our religion. And I said, what is your evidence? And he shows me a few verses. He opens, straight away he knows by heart. He says, look at this. He says, kill them wherever you find them. It is in the Quran. But as an objective scholar, I said, hang on, let's look at the context. Yes, it says, the word exactly says, kill them wherever you find them. But when you look at the context, that revelation talks about a specific situation. there was a peace treaty between both parties, and one side breaks the covenant agreement, then the revelation gives authority to the believers to start struggle again. But I said, look, you are just taking it out of context. You're taking it out of context. This is not what it says. And he says, well, you're too clever to spot that. A lot of people, they don't bother. You put the text, you put the verse number, chapter number, and they take it. They say, yeah, this is what it says. So this brings me to the next problem. The motivation behind intolerant religion, therefore, number one is ignorance and lack of appetite for research. You know, one of the participants in the room earlier mentioned, you know, she's doing her 8th, 9th masters. She's craving for information and research. But not everybody is like that. You pull some random guy, he's not interested in research. He's not interested in reading in general. And it is quite easy to manipulate that person. Therefore, the first problem emerges as ignorance. So we're going to come back to ignorance. Again, I look at the conflict resulted from religion. It's an ugly picture, but this is the reality. There is conflict, there is bloodshed and violence appear to be the result of religion. Very ugly. I met a young person studying sociology at Manchester University, and I said, look, I do philosophy and theology, etc. And he says, oh, don't tell me about it. Religion is the source of all problems. Is he wrong? Because this young man looks at the global problems, and it appears like that. Wherever there is conflict, it is almost always religion-based. And he says, he's a Muslim boy, by the way. He has tendency towards becoming a deist. Deism is a philosophical position which says that there is a deity, there is a maker, there is a creator, but that deity is not concerned with your day-to-day living. And man, I use the generic term, not in a sexual way, man doesn't need religion or prophets. They say, yeah, there is a maker because science implies that there must be a maker, but there is no religion. We don't need religion. We can, you know, design our own civilization based on our values, and we don't need religion. So this person I met, young university student, he says, yeah, he believes in God. There is no problem, and he, you know, says prayers to him, but he is anti-religion, and his argument is that religion is the source of violence and source of problem. And sadly, this is the current picture. But as a scientist, I zoom in and look into the reason of the problem. Where do you have violent conflicts? Where there is ignorance, obviously. The second visible characteristics of conflict and religion-based violence is where there is, hold on to your seats, poverty. You know, you go to Switzerland, yes, there are bunch of right-wing supremacists and right-wing extremists. Even in Britain, this is, you know, top of the world, one of the best countries, but we have political parties like we got political movements like UKIP, we got organization like BNP, and in France we have like National Front. Yes, there is the intellectual entity out there, no matter how rich you are. But as poverty kicks in, this view turns into violence. I look at the case of Iraq. You know, in the 80s, Iraq was like Emirates and Qatar of today. What do I mean by this? In the 80s, Iraqi citizens, they didn't require to get visa to come to England. And I watched documentaries about British tourism, how Iraqis are flooding in to London. They're telling this proudly, 1980s. They are coming every summer to Britain because the weather is cooler, it is green, and they are talking highly about Iraqis. Because in the 80s, Iraq was number one for the West because they had the money, they had the wealth. Then suddenly, we have all the violence, all the conflict going on there. And I'm just thinking, how can they easily recruit people? I'll tell you how. Imagine you had a school system, you had your house, you had your extracurricular activities, you got your holidays booked in England, and someone comes up to you, let's say you live in Baghdad, and this is 1984. Someone comes up to you and he shows a verse in the Quran. He says, oh, look. You say, hang on, mate, I got holiday booked. I'm going to London and I need to spend some dinars. Because you got the wealth. You got your job, you got your house, you got your education, you have an established running system. Suddenly, it becomes almost impossible to be recruited by any of those ideas. Now, the picture has changed. You go to Baghdad. There is this young man born in 1989. He has never seen any peace in his country. All he has seen is poverty, murder, unfairness, and he doesn't see any hope. That is the person who is the easiest to recruit. You say, come closer, here is your AK-46, here is the verse, go fight. Because that guy has no education, has no wealth, no aspiration in life, and he thinks, well, the only way out is to struggle. So he becomes an easy recruit. So you see, ignorance is number one element, and poverty is number two. Another thing I noticed when it comes to poverty, we have a participant from Afghanistan, so probably he knows very similar stories. If it is a poor community, it is easy to manipulate. You know, I live in part of Leeds. I don't think anyone can create any violent movement in this part of the town using money. Because there is already money. There is the gym, there is the swimming pool, there is the hiking, there is the bike, there is the university, there is the internet. You don't have room for anything else. So money doesn't work. But apply this to a poorer context. You go to poor places. Probably you'll agree with me. It is a lot easier to use the power of money to support one faction against another one. then you have a massive fire. Continues. Syria is a good example. Now people lost hope, people lost aspiration, they became very poor. Russia is pouring money from one side, Iran is pouring money from outside, Turkey is pouring money from other side. America still doesn't know what to do, but they still have the money. So it suddenly becomes a platform for the playing field of external powers. And it becomes the field of proxy struggle. You will quickly realize it is not the struggle of actual people on the ground. It is the proxy struggle of other forces behind them. I think these are two of the main sources of conflicts based on religion, from religion. Ignorance and poverty, so they have to be addressed. As a result of these two, intolerance is the third problem. But I see intolerance as a byproduct of ignorance and poverty. We have intolerance in the West. Probably you're watching American elections. Probably you're following what's been happening in Britain and what's been happening in Hungary. There is intolerance out there, but rarely does it convert into struggle and violence. But if you have these first two elements, that is ignorance and poverty, the third one, intolerance, just flourishes. It is potentially there. It's in every human being. But intolerance is fueled by poverty and ignorance. I think we start addressing the third one. So dialogue is the cure, at least to people who think like us, is the cure to global problems. I don't see dialogue something we do in a small room on Zoom, some few passionate people talking about how to engage. Trust me, it is the cure for the global problem. Now Europe has shaken because we have so many refugees flooding in, and it is breaking the fabric of Europe, and it is in top of the agenda. There are conflicts all around us, and as long as there are conflicts, people will move away from conflict. And it is only in human nature they're going to move to safer places. And at the moment, Europe is the safest place. They're going to keep coming. When we talk about dialogue to Angela Merkel or Macron or Boris, they're all for it. Because there is greater global benefit to dialogue. I'll tell you how. Imagine you address these three problems: ignorance, poverty, and intolerance. The cure of intolerance is dialogue. Once you start dialogue, you open up doors to peace. Take Afghanistan as an example. There are different factions. They've been struggling for years and years and years. Since they don't sit down and talk, they cannot solve other problems, namely poverty and education, because these are all interconnected. So what we do in these small events is preparing the world for a peaceful lifestyle. And we believe it could be achieved by means of dialogue. One problem is why people find it difficult to engage in dialogue. This is from my personal experience. I had many Western people came to visit me when I was the director of Rūmī Peace Institute. When I speak to them, they said, these are great ideas. I think you should start applying here. Because the guy says, you know, you're telling me all these, but the problem is around here. And I said to him, I said, trust me, dialogue is the most difficult within. So any Muslim will find it easy to engage with a non-Muslim. I can see this every day. I live in Leeds. We have a lot of people from former empire, you know, British Empire. They're quite happy to live among white British and different ethnicities, different cultures. They're quite happy. You go to London, in Leeds, I mean, you come out and you hardly hear any English. But the severest dispute is among the people of same religion. I just find this funny and very interesting. How come this person, Muslim person, can easily engage with a Christian or an atheist or Jew or Sikh or Hindu, but not with another Muslim? I find this absolutely amazing. There is this story in Pakistani community tells this story in Britain. Probably you got some people from that heritage. Again, I'm not telling any of these as to offend anyone. I'm just sharing my experience and feelings. So this is, I heard from this, from a Pakistani man. Very funny. It shows how far this intolerance goes. He says, this Pakistani Muslim was walking over a bridge and he spots a man about to jump off the bridge to commit suicide. With passion, he runs and he says, brother, brother, stop, stop, stop. And he grabs him and he starts preaching him. He says, Wallahi, brother, it is haram. What are you doing? And they start a conversation. He says, oh, are you Muslim? I said, yeah, I'm Muslim. Oh, that's great. Whereabouts are you from? He says, I'm from Pakistan. Whereabouts in Pakistan? Say, Islamabad, for example. They get closer and closer and closer, and it's beautiful. They become, they say, so you're Muslim, are you Sunni, are you Shia? So I'm saying, oh, me too, me too. So are you Sufi, have you got Tariqa? He says, yeah, I have Tariqa. Are you Qadiri, Naqshbandi? He says, Naqshbandi. It narrows down and down and down until they reach the same neighborhood. Who says, really, who is your sheikh? He says, oh, my sheikh is Sheikh Muhammad. He says, you bloody kafir, pushes him down the bridge. You see, as it narrows down, the more they have in common, they come to a point, and it is the guy who comes to save him, pushes him off. I find this fascinating. The community accepts this intolerance. And it is beautiful because people have tried other options and they are still trying it. That is conflict and struggle, and it is not working. The world is becoming worse and worse and worse. I think, again, it is high time to sit down again and try to engage in dialogue and try plan B, because the world has been operating on plan A, which is conflict. I think we should promote plan B, which is tolerance and dialogue. One thing I noticed, probably you have noticed the same thing, when people hear about engaging in dialogue, For example, I meet Christian people. I engage in a dialogue. I'm not becoming Christian, nor they are becoming Muslim. Interfaith or intercultural dialogue is not equal to conversion. This is what the other side uses a lot. When they spot you with someone from other faith, they just label you. They say, he's a disbeliever, he's a traitor. No, I'm still saying me. I'm just accepting him as he is. I'm not trying to convert him to become like me, or I'm not letting him to convert me to become like him. This is the essence of dialogue. You respect the person, you accept him or her as they are, and there is no push to bend or change their position. This is the dialogue model which works, because I have seen some failures. There is this global movement, like Hizmet movement. I said, how come they are so successful? Because they're everywhere. They go and set up an establishment in a Christian society, in an atheist society, Orthodox society, Muslim society. It works everywhere. I say, what is the success? I think the success is they build on the right foundation. The purpose is not to change or convert people, but accept individuals as they are, and meeting at the common values. The most common value is, you know, if you look at basic human rights, everybody likes to have a decent life, roof on their head, safety on the street, freedom to express themselves, freedom to practice whatever they want to practice. So why should I impose my set of values on them or accept their values whilst we can meet on the common ground? So this should be the healthy ground to meet. So, okay, you're Jewish, you're Christian, you're Hindu, you're Sikh, I'm Muslim. Obviously, we cannot merge all these, or we cannot convert each other. Let's meet in the middle point. And the middle point is universal right, universal act of human rights. You look, nobody can disagree with those values. So why don't we meet there? You stay as who you are, and I stay as who I am. And let's meet on the common ground. If we achieve this, we're gonna solve a lot of global problems. Migration problem, inequality in wealth distribution. Now the biggest companies are the weapon makers. You know, you go to, you look at the US, the biggest companies are like Lockheed, like Boeing, like Pratt & Whitney. I'm just thinking, are they doing food manufacturing? Are they doing good stuff for humanity? No, they're making weapons. And they're very expensive stuff, I'm telling you. And these people, they are destined to poverty. They are destined to ignorance and fueled by intolerance, spending all their money to kill each other. Imagine we solve these three problems. Instead of spending money on weapons to kill each other, you're going to spend your money for infrastructure, for education, for betterment of the world. I think it's a global thing. It is not a Muslim thing. It's not a Christian or Hindu thing. It is a global phenomena. And dialogue is the global cure to the global problems. You can be atheist, perfectly fine. but I think you should still engage in dialogue. You should still take tolerance as the default. We've been trying the other way. We had empires, we had world wars, we have thermonuclear devices blowing on people's heads. We have so many casualties. I think it's high time that passionate people like us start promoting common values. It's going to solve the global problems. Right, I think we have almost done the first hour. That's me done for part 1. Let's take a 10 minutes break. You grab your cup of tea or water, and we come back at 40 past. And in part 2, I would like you to join in and tell us about your reflections and ask us your questions, and we're going to have an interactive part 2. Let's take 10 minutes break.
Right, so we will be online, but you can do whatever you want to for 10 minutes, and once he's back, we'll resume this session.
Behzad, should I just continue or you gonna
no,
join in, or should I just carry on?
Yes, I think Mushtaq Sikandar wants to ask a question or wants to make a comment.
Yes, that's the plan, unless you want to make a remark. No. Otherwise, we're going to start part 2. Welcome back, everybody. So in this part, it's going to be mainly you expressing your views and opinions and asking questions. So the floor is yours. I don't know how we manage this, Behzad. Are they going to raise hands or?
Yes, they will raise hands. So I think Mushtaq wants to go first.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you can operate the backend, then, you know, for me, it doesn't matter. So whoever comes next, I'm happy to go.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Hakan. It was a very nice presentation. Just an observation. It's not a question per se. You stated that ignorance along with poverty are the two basic reasons that lead to intolerance and later to violence. And you also added this, what I say as capitalism, and you stated as gun industry that's involved in conflict. I would add, given the context of Kashmir, because in Kashmir since last 3 and more decades, we have been witnessing violent conflict. I would add that ideological motivation again is very important, because in case of Kashmir, we witness that the demographic profile of the militants or violent activists, it's not just because poverty or ignorance are the reasons. There are political reasons, and there are again ideological reasons, and in which the Islam has been interpreted in such a manner that it becomes a struggle between the kufr, disbelief, and Islam, and particularly the concept of Islamic State and establishment or accession to Pakistan, because again Pakistan was based, ideological roots of Pakistan were religious. So I would just add that ideological motivation is very much essential. And then also, given the demographic profile of the militants, we witness that most of them are teenagers who can't understand, or basically they are not able to negotiate the emotions. So that's why we witness a certain sense of grief. Or if they are humiliated in that age, so it becomes a potent force along with the state's repression that's there. So it becomes a potent force, and they become potential recruits for violent activism. So ignorance and poverty may not hold good for each conflict. So here we have ideological motivation, we have a certain country, and then again, as you stated, that gun industry is one of the biggest capitalist industries. So they intend to use these arms somewhere. So it becomes quite obvious that violence is the result. And in case of dialogue has been a very negative word in context of Kashmir, because dialogue had always been used to maintain a status quo. So these were my observations, what you stated, and an addition to it. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Mushtaq?
Yes.
Okay, so you clearly have a better understanding of Kashmir situation. Imagine you are the power for one day. How would you solve the problem? What do you think? What do you think the solution of the problem should be?
The solution is basically demilitarization, and then the political aspirations of the Kashmiri people for self-determination that has been promised to them when the partition of the subcontinent took place. So those aspirations need to be addressed. Only then there would be a permanent kind of solution, because we have witnessed, particularly in J&K state, that's with the Indian administered Kashmir, we have witnessed that there is a denial of promises. There is no way for democracy. There is, you see, one of the highest militarized zone in the world. So these all reasons lead to the alienation among people. And once they intend to basically articulate their alienation through non-violent kind of protests, the state doesn't allow that. So that's why a certain group of these teenagers, most of these militants now, since last 10 years, since a decade, we are witnessing that most of them are teenagers, and they have an immediate sense of grief. Suppose somewhere they are being humiliated by the army or the J&K police and other such people, so they took a recourse to the guns, and then they are ideologically motivated by the religious kind of connotations that are being used by these groups, religious groups, to indoctrinate and inculcate the youth with violent kind of activism. So these are the number of factors. So if I become something powerful, I would intend that there should be demilitarization and the right of self-determination should be implemented.
Do you think democracy? I'm just asking, just to know. There is nothing hidden in my questions. Do you really think the population in Kashmir is ready to endorse democracy? Do you think they are mentally ready to live together and set up a parliament, run an election, and self-determine? Or would it be again shifted in favor of the majority?
No, but if you state democracy, because Kashmiris have never experienced democracy as such. Since 1947 till now, we have elections have been held by the Indian state, but most of them are rigged. So now the electoral process has completely derailed. And only people who believe basically in elections are not those who enjoy a good credibility. But if democratic elections, democratic process, and freedom of expression is given to the Kashmiri people, certainly there would be after a decade or so, people would be ready to implement or have their own parliament or send their own representatives. But at present, what the condition is that the Kashmiris want the demilitarization to be over. Suppose we have a communication clampdown since last 1 year. The high-speed internet still remains banned. So those kinds of things, if they go, the demilitarization happens, human rights violations go down, the freedom of expression is there. So certainly after some time, Kashmiris certainly would be ready for a democratic kind of a process.
Okay, without causing any controversy, again, I'm asking to learn. Who is the main culprit in Kashmir? I mean, who is just exacerbating the problem?
Both the states of India and Pakistan are, because during partition, the J&K state, it got partitioned between India and Pakistan. So due to that partition, Kashmir got divided. And then in the Indian administered part and Pakistan administered part, you have the problems. So Indian state took it to the UN, where it was supposed that Kashmiri people will be given to the right of self-determination, through which they will determine whether they intend to remain as an independent country, exist as an independent country, or they want to intend to accede completely to Pakistan or completely to India. But that right to self-determination has never been implemented. Though we have these United Nations military observers group since 48 stationed in Srinagar also. So this is the basically the bone of contention is that. And then since 47, it has taken various types of forms. The Kashmiris have tried elections, and now since 90s, the conflict has turned quite violent. And since last 1 decade, more and more teenagers, basically due to the sense of this humiliation and immediate kind of grief, because there are no institutions of grievance redressal. There is no basically trust in the electoral kind of politics. And most of these elected kind of people, they get elected by a very meager percentage of people, meager percentage of votes. So that these are the reasons why basically the problem has become quite complex. And on the other hand, Pakistan is also supporting the armed kind of groups, whether through monetary means or whether by training their personnel. So that's why the vicious cycle of violence continues, and we don't see any recourse towards peace, violence. And even if even the Indian or Pakistani state intend to go for dialogue, these dialogue processes have failed since last 70 years. And till now, since 2014, till now, there has been no confidence building measures or dialogue between the two states. So the Kashmiris are at the loss. So
it seems to me, based on what you just explained, because Kashmir is a vote winner back home, politicians use it for their advantage as a vote winner. And it seems it's going to drag on like this, because on both sides, in India and Pakistan, they benefit from it. They benefit from the conflict. Maybe you're right. They should both give up. They say, look, you're on your own, set up your own parliament and deal with your own affairs. But I don't know if either of the countries are ready to give up their interest in Kashmir. It seems it's going to carry on a little longer.
Yes, obviously. And also because Kashmir is very rich in water resources. So the next wars are supposed to be on water. And so both the countries, India and Pakistan, have divided over major rivers. The river water sharing, the Indus Water Treaty happened in 1960s and was brokered by World Bank. So that's again one of the reasons why both the countries don't intend to leave Kashmir apart. And then also in case of Pakistan, it's earning a number of funding. A lot of funding from Muslim countries is going on there in the name of fighting Kashmir. And for India, the electoral politics kind of thing, the polarization between Hindus and Muslims is happening in the name of Kashmir. So so both the countries have their vested interest to keep the kind of this vicious cycle of violence continuing. And Kashmiris are at the receiving end. So at present, we don't have any kind of grievance redressal, no kind of freedom of expression in that sense. Even communication gag is there and many related problems. So both the countries need to take cudgels to basically to resolve this issue, because it's the Kashmiris who are dying daily on the borders within the main city and other such places. Yes.
Well, thank you. This very, very honest and precious input, because it is a far dispute to me, and I can probably hear only one side of the story. I have learned new things. Certainly, I'll use the material in my further speeches. Thank you for this, Mushtaq. Behzad, we can take the next question or next view. So if you can choose.
Muhammad Baligh wants to go next.
Yes, sir, this is based on your example that you gave, like the guy going on the bridge and finally getting caught into the cultural or the religious intolerance thing. So I wanted to know how dialogue would be important and how we can exercise dialogue in terms of, just lessening the gap between the inter-religious conflict that we have in Islam itself.
It is very difficult, probably one of the most difficult type of dialogue. It is not inter-religion, it is within religion. It is very hard to achieve. I think the biggest role is in the hands of ulama, scholars. I think they should stop telling their audience that anyone within their circle is kafir. Very common. He says, oh, that's kufr, this is bid'ah. No, they should stop using this type of inflammatory language. Because imagine you're a young kid going to your masjid or mosque and you keep hearing these. And you picture a fellow believer as the greatest enemy because of the language you keep hearing. I think we should encourage our scholars to use unifying language, not alienating language. And I think we should stop calling other sections, other branches of the same religion as infidels, kafir. I think that should be a good start. But again, as Mushtaq pointed out earlier, there are beneficiaries in every conflict. It is either a vote winner, or making you a popular sheikh, or making you a popular leader, and it just makes your position solid. I don't know how far scholars, ulama, can go to embrace dialogue within different sections of the religion. Hardest, but I think the starting point is just to stop using language of hatred. That could be a good start. But it seems the division within Islam, at least, will continue for a long time because it is so deep and it is so inherent. It is going to stay there. We are successful if we can manage to bring people a little closer and making them stop seeing each other as infidel. I think that's the greatest achievement within religion. Well, he might follow a Sufi path. Well, he might be from different madhab. Fine. We have to learn to tolerate. This is my view. Maybe it is too difficult to achieve, but I think that's the first step.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nobody else has raised a hand yet, but of course, anybody else who wants to go, who wants to.
Yeah,
okay.
I would like to go ahead.
Yes, Tausif, go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Hakan, firstly, I would like to thank you very much because today's session was very, very interactive, and you started off by having a dialogue, by introducing all of us. I would like to actually, bring up a couple of points from the reasons of extremism that you actually raised.
Please, go.
You said ignorance, poverty, and intolerance are one of the reasons that actually extremism is raised in a religion. But I actually see that there is one more point that is very important in today's nature of being in a country like India, that many innocents are being framed, and having been innocent also, after being convicted after 5 years, 10 years, they have been innocent, but they have been framed in the name of in the name of extremism, and they are behind bars for years together. So the repercussion of that particular incident is their family members become extremists, their relatives become extremists, and you see that is rising in numbers in India. So how do you voice out, how do you have a dialogue with such people around? Because this is one of the most important points in India that needs to be addressed at this point in time. Because you see, you have hundreds of raids being done at various places across India, innocents being picked up, framed for no reasons, behind bars for years together. Finally, they come up saying that, we don't have evidence against them, and they are freed. But the repercussion of that is his son, his relative becomes so extremist that, it leads to a bigger, I would not say bigger, reason for it, but end of the day, it is going to lead a bigger impact on the society. So how do you see that, in such situations, how do you interact with those family members? How do you have a dialogue with such people and get a reason out of it?
You made a beautiful point. You have this innocent boy, because his father is mistreated by the system, and he is now radicalized, so he becomes the new recruit. I think, again, we're going to go back to the universal values, democracy and transparency. People are quite ready to accept if there is a real crime and if there is a proper legal process. They're happy. They say, okay, yeah, this person committed this crime, and based on our criminal code, he has to serve X amount of year. But once you start fabricating evidence and start framing people, this is terrible. Whoever is doing it, he is just putting fuel on the fire. I think we should kill the problem at the source. We should promote democracy and tell those people doing the misconduct how wrong what they do, because it's just making the problem worse. I don't know how to approach to the victim, because I have seen many victims, and you know, this emotional trauma is embedded in them now. And you talk about dialogue, I mean, they are so filled with hatred. Very difficult, very difficult. Maybe you can have a religious or Sufi approach or theological approach. This might work, or as we do in the West, we can have the compensation approach. I'll tell you how they work. In Britain, when the government does something wrong, which we do a lot, like Windrush generation, what we did, when Theresa May became a Home Secretary, he is a conservative, sort of right-wing, and they don't like foreigners. And Theresa May said, whoever goes to hospital or schools, now you should ask for passport. In Britain, we don't have an ID card. No ID. And if you're not traveling, you don't have a passport. Your word is your identification. Until Theresa May became Home Secretary. Then this is what happened. You stop any white guy on the street, they don't have an ID, they don't have a passport. They just say, look, my name is this, I live there, I was born there. That was enough. When Theresa May said, you should start asking for identification, a lot of Jamaican people, they said, what identification? Who has got identification? They didn't have passport, they didn't have any ID, and they were deported because they looked at their color, they said, oh, you're Jamaican. The man was born in Britain in 1970. He's British all his life, but like every British, he didn't have any ID. And Theresa put them on a plane and sent them to Jamaica. And the guy says, I came to Jamaica for the first time in my life. Because of my skin color and my hair, they deported me. We call this scandal Windrush generation scandal. This is how we solved. Government said, all right, hands up, we made a mistake. This is a gross injustice. We're going to solve this problem with compensation. This is the first solution. What they did, they brought them back, they apologized, and they pay money. They said, right, here is your £50,000, we are sorry. And most of them accepted, so hatred just evaporated. This is the first solution. I don't know if India can do this, or if we can do this to everybody. Second solution is theological approach. Because great majority of people, they believe in something. They believe in afterlife, they believe in divine justice, they believe in reincarnation. We can motivate them using these elements. I'll give you one example. Yesterday, in another circle, we read this event happened at the time of Prophet. This Bedouin nomad came to Medina full of hatred, and he started cursing Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr didn't reply. The man was shouting and swearing and abusing, and he was just not replying and not responding. And the Prophet was there, and he was doing tabassum, smile. When Sayyidina Abu Bakr responded to him, the Prophet stood up and walked away. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, wow, what happened? The man has been shouting and abusing me. I said one thing, and he went after him. And the Prophet said, Ya Abu Bakr, whilst you are showing perseverance and patience to abuse, an angel standing behind you and defending you. Now you started taking up your own defense, that angel left, and I don't sit where angels don't sit. It is in Suat Yildirim version of the Quran, and it is a little explanation under Suratul, the one before Shura. It just happened yesterday. And I just thought, this might work to people of belief. You know, you just use this theological element. You say, look, there is injustice in this life, but there is reward at the end of it. And in most cases, when I met the victims of the regime in Turkey, because they escaped the country, they are really hurt, wounded. I said, how do we fix these people? And I found this type of theological motivation from the life of the Prophet and extracts from the Quran may help. These are the two things you can try. I can't think of anything else. Otherwise, they're going to seek revenge filled with hatred. So, materialistic approach, like the British way of doing it, compensation, apology, and compensation, or theological, spiritual reply, which works in most cases, because a lot of people, they believe in afterlife and they believe in reward and retribution, and it might work. I hope this answers.
Abul Kalam Azad.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you, Abdul Kalam.
Okay, sir. Sir, I am Abul Kalam Azad. As I think I'm from Bangladesh. My question would be, sir, regarding secularism and religion.
Okay.
So let's just, if I give some background information, let's say, I mean, in current days, this is my point of view. In many countries, just religion is being used, I mean, only for their favor. It starts from this India, some continent, let's say Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. I mean, we can give many examples. Let's say in Sri Lanka, there is ban on cow slaughter. Then in, let's say in India, I mean, let's say there is CAA, I mean, Citizen Amendment Act, where they are saying that only all religion can come to their country, but Muslim cannot come. Let's say in case of France even, I mean, they're saying about that. I mean, France is trying to make their own. I mean, we can say that. I mean, France Islam. I mean, they're trying to modify it according to their will, according to their favor. I mean, my question would be, sir, I mean, also in case of Bangladesh or in case of in Pakistan, I mean, while in election time, they are using it as the tool to select or to be a prime minister, to come to a position. They use the religion as the, I mean, I would say as the tool. So my question would be, sir, I mean, from your point of view, what does secularism means actually? I mean, is there any perfect model in the world where actually secularism is being followed? Thank you very much.
It's a beautiful question. I mean, it's quite a shift from what we've been talking so far. Secularism is a good idea. It says, look, let's put people on a neutral ground. So let's not look at their belief or background. Let's take them as human beings and treat them equally. This is the idea in a nutshell. Beautiful idea. Lack of secularism gives birth to other problems. We have seen this, especially in Islamic countries. They use religion just to make their position stronger. They use religion for their political end, and it's a disaster. On the other end of the scale, we see secularism used as a tool for the same purpose. Secularism becomes a religion. Then it becomes the struggle between religion itself and the religion of secularism. Secularism was supposed to be, you have religion, you have atheism, you have whatever isms. Secularism was the intersection of all those, right in the middle, the neutral ground, equal ground for everybody. As an idea, it is beautiful, very progressive, but sadly, it became a religion itself. Two problems in Islamic countries. we either become a religious dictatorship and we have religious theological backing to our oppression. We got authority of fatwa. This is a big problem, brings oppression and injustice. Or in the extreme end, secularism is used to oppress religion. Turkey is the best example because I have real life experience there. In the 80s, when I was young, secularism was the trend, and it was bashing Muslims. Headscarf was banned. If your name was Muhammad or Ahmad, you couldn't get a job in the government. You should have a name neutral like Hakan. The reason my father is called Osman, like Sayyidina Osman. I said to my dad, I said, how come your father is called Muhammad Yasin, your Osman, your brother is Rajab, and all Islamic, how come I am Hakan, my brother is Gökhan, and others Serkan? And he said, son, this is a secular country. You don't get a job if your name is Muhammad. That's why I call you Hakan. You see, this was the oppression of secularism. Then, fast forward, we came to current day. They completely removed secularism. Now they are using religion as tool of oppression. They are oppressing the secular people. They are leaving them no room to live. And they are also oppressing Muslim people because, as we discussed earlier, like that Pakistani Muslim man pushing other Muslim off the bridge, now the sects who came to power sees other sects as infidel, traitors, tool of America, and they try to destroy them, and they do. Now you have an Islamic dictatorship, and whose enemy is everybody, secular, other Muslims, everybody. This looks even worse than before. I think as a value system, secularism is a good idea because unfortunately as Muslims, we are not ready to have a healthy system. I think still democracy, republic, and secularism, if it is done properly, keeping equal distance to every individual and making sure everybody can practice their freedom without violating other people's freedom, I think it is still the healthy option. Otherwise, it goes either way to extremism and injustice. I think I'm happy to say it is democracy and it is healthy, correct secularism.
Shabista Naz.
Hello, Dr. Hakan. It was really nice to listen your experiences. I am having a reflection on the idea which you discussed, that education, education, less education is somewhere linked to terrorism and that kind of activity. So I was thinking, when we talk about education, we always tend to define education in a very general terms, right? So when we are talking about education, we should also know which kind of education we are mentioning, right? So the idea of cramming, datas or that kind of thing means it should have some kind of, it should give some kind of, concept, or it should clear some misconception to the lived reality and so. So in that sense, means I just want to know your views, that saying that those who are even I just also want to add that people, those who are not less educated people never manipulate people. It is the more educated one, those who have the power to manipulate them. So I just want to know your views of that. Thank you.
I think education, there is a Quranic expression, كَالْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا, like a donkey carrying books. Otherwise, you're just carrying lots of books on your back. So the education, knowledge should make you a better person. I mean, you can educate someone to become a good combatant, good manipulator, good chaos creator. This is also education. But when we say education, education which makes you understand yourself better, understand life better, and gives light to your life. Otherwise, you're just carrying books. That's why we should, when we say education, we should do physical, education of physics and metaphysics, whatever that person believes in, as well as other faiths. So, I mean, you cannot become a good believer unless and until you know the essence of other people's faith. So this is the right education. We should have the balance. Modern science, whatever is necessary for human progress, as well as spiritual element of education. Because we had this problem. Again, I give an example of Ottoman Empire concept. What happened was, in the past, education meant madrasa. So you did Quran, Islamic studies, hadith, you know, fiqh, all that stuff. Then you fell behind scientific progress, and Europe just took off. And people said, right, we should stop doing this and we should teach people science. Then we secularize education and we start teaching physics, chemistry, astronomy, all that stuff without teaching those religious science. So if you do this, people become fundamentalist. And if you do this, people become atheist. We should find the right balance. We should still let people choose, but we should still teach them, look, this is what people believe. Some people believe life after that. Some people believe life coming back, reincarnation. Some people believe when you die, you become a worm food. We should teach all these. And we should let people choose. But overall, we should teach essential universal human values. You may believe and you may practice. You may not believe and you may not practice, but this doesn't give you right to oppress other people. So this is my understanding of education. You pointed out a good, you highlight a good point. It is true, ignorance, educated people usually manipulate. If you look at the global chessboard, it is usually clever people behind, not ignorant people. But I use the term of ignorance in the sense that not being inquisitive, not researching, taking whatever you're told. Surely they are not the cause of chaos, but they are the victim of manipulation. That's what I mean by ignorance. You go to any village, probably you're going to meet the nicest people. But we should educate them not to take everything as they see. And this is not happening in rural India or rural Turkey or Afghanistan. This is happening everywhere. I usually travel to the US like twice a year to lecture there, and I teach a course there, and I interact. It is that type of people brought Trump to power for 4 years. I mean, you know, Trump says fake news, but he is using them. And people, we call them ignorant people. They just read. They can read. They got technology. They got iPhones and cable TV. But they are not inquisitive. They are not questioning. They are not skeptical. They just sit, whatever their leader tells them, they take it. This type of ignorance is what I meant. Otherwise, you have nice people who cannot read and write. And as a matter of fact, in good old days, we call it aksakal, white beard. That's the person, the oldest person, full of life experience, probably who doesn't speak English or French, or who doesn't read much, but he's got this wisdom and maturity. He's a nice person. But I don't call that person ignorant. I call the person who doesn't inquire, I call that person ignorant. So I hope this clarifies the point.
Yeah, thank you.
Sabiha More. Your microphone is yes.
Hello, sir. I was very, I would say, engrossed in the conversation that took place. I think Behzad sir will agree, this is the longest that we had in all the 11 weeks that we did. I have a few observations to make and a couple of questions to ask you. Somebody said that Kashmir is in which, and whatever I say, I don't have an ill feeling towards what people said, because whatever they said was a personal experience, and there is no problem in accepting that what they say is 100% true. But if we are talking about atrocities of police, let us try to find out that police atrocities are common across the globe. Whether it is Black Lives Matters, or recently, a couple of days ago, it was found out that the Australian peacekeeping force killed 26 of the Ethiopian people point blank range, and they have been now converted as whatever prisoners or whatever criminals or whatever other things are there. And in India, across states, if somebody is saying, oh, Kashmir is a victim of police atrocities, go to my hometown, Uttar Pradesh, UP. Irrespective of what religion you belong to, you will find that people are being terrorized by the police force because their power is the only thing that people understand. And let me also tell you, I never wanted to play this victim card, that I'm a victim of a riot. I've stayed for 30 days in a refugee camp. In 1979, my father was posted in Jamshedpur, which has seen one of the bloodiest Hindu-Muslim riots. And I was a young school-going girl, and with one pair of clothes, I was forced to stay in a refugee camp for 30 days because my father was not there. My mother with us had to go and take refuge. And a servant of mine, who was basically a Hindu, but people thought that he's a Muslim, was massacred, was butchered. He was ambushed by the rioters who came to my house. They burnt my house. They looted my house. And I got married to somebody who was not a Muslim. So my mother has a biggest problem that how dare you get married to somebody who looted my house. I said, he did not come to loot your house. He is from Maharashtra. We are talking about Bihar. So he did not come to loot your house. Dialogue is extremely important, and let us try to understand that victimization of the poor and the powerless has got nothing to do with religion. Maybe Kashmir is having more of Muslims, and then we need to understand. I also want to make one observation to you, sir, and this is extremely important. So I'm a teacher educator. I go and see how teachers teach in a school. So my students give lesson and I sit behind and I see whether they are teaching properly or not. I was in one of the best schools Mumbai has. It is, I will not name the school. It's not correct.
We will Google it and find out, Sabia. You said best school in Mumbai.
You will not be able to find out. You listen to this incident, sir. And I was sitting behind. It was a geography class, and my teacher was teaching something about volcanoes, dormant, active, extinct. And I wanted to refer something. So I said to my child who was sitting the next, I said, can I have your geography textbook? And he said, and I opened the first page. And in our textbooks in India, we have got our pledge. India is my country. All Indians are my brothers and sisters. I love my country. and I still have the photograph, and the child had written, India is, and with a pen, not my country. I do not love my country. All Indians are not my brothers and sisters. I have respect for parents, but not for elders and teachers. He has added with a blue pen, I am not proud of the rich and cultural heritage of our country. To my country and my people, I do not devote my devotion. And he was just a 7th standard child. 7th standard child. And sir, with a lot of shame and lot of pain, I am saying that child was a Muslim child. Okay? A 12-year-old cannot have so much of hatred that he could alter an Indian pledge. So try to understand that the diaspora in which he was growing, and I'm talking about a ghetto which is basically a Muslim, he belonged to that ghetto, has been feeding this ill feeling to the children that this country doesn't offer you anything, which is absolutely a crap. You know, I'm not saying, I've also been a victim of Hindu-Muslim riots for n number of times. It is obvious that you become a victim. But does that mean that you will not owe your allegiance to the country that you are born in, who has fed you, who has given you everything? What were the parents doing? So next day I called the parents and I said, what has your child done? Why has he written like this? He said, no, madam, we did not teach. I said, a 12-year-old cannot write like this. Your atmosphere, your ambience has been teaching this to your child. I'm sure your child will become a terrorist when he grows up. With this kind of hatred being so deep in your heart, you will ultimately turn into a terrorist. So please try to understand the education of the diaspora is equally important when it comes to understanding of religion and becoming more liberal in your view. We all talk about, sir, I want to give you this example. The chief imam of Delhi, Sayyid Bukhari, he's the chief imam of Jama Masjid. When he says that kal Eid hogi, so tomorrow there is a Eid. When he says kal Bakrid hogi, he will say we will follow Eid and we will follow. He's the one who decides. Fatwa at that girl. His son got married to a Hindu Brahmin girl. My question is, why did you she got converted into Islam. Why in the entire Muslim diaspora, you did not find a girl to get married and you're going to become the next imam and you change somebody's religion? What message are you giving that it is okay to find a girl from other religion, get her converted so that you get all the laurels and this thing and you become a great savior of your this thing? I oppose to this. Anybody else does, I can understand. Son of an imam, he got married to a Hindu girl and then he got her converted, and that was, like publicized in paper. What are you giving the message to the other young Muslim boys that is okay to find out a girl from other community, get her converted, and then you become a hero of your community? It's absolutely obnoxious, especially by people who are in power. This is what my problem is, that what you said is right. If the fatwas are correct, the followers become all right. In Islam, family planning is not there. But in Iran, people wanted to control the population. And from the Friday prayer, khutbah, they said we will have only 2 children, and Iran followed family planning. Why can't we do something like this just to ease the tension, normal tension? What is happening in Kashmir, I understand they have been gagged, there is no internet, there is killing by military. Let us also understand that Indian peacekeeping forces, when they went to Sri Lanka, they massacred 58 people in a market square. So let's understand that when you have power is intoxicating. You are intoxicated and you use and misuse. Somebody said power corrupts and absolute power corrupts you absolutely. So we need to understand, and that's why what you said is right. Ignorance is absolutely to be wiped out. That doesn't mean that if you are MA, then only you are educated. Even if you don't go to school, and if you understand religion, I got married to a non-Muslim. One of my father-in-law, who's absolutely doesn't know how to write, welcomed me with open arms, saying that you will not change your religion and I accept the way you are. That is education that we need to understand. Thank you very much. This was a very nice.
Sabia, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, so should intercultural and interreligious marriage be encouraged, or should people stick to their own?
See, sir, only thing is, I fall in love. People don't rise in love, they fall in love. So I fall in love. No, I'm just doing a pun. I'm just intending that people fall in love, they don't rise in love. But what I'm trying to say, you fall in love with somebody. Do you really check his religion? Do you really check his religion?
Because did I misunderstand you? You are not happy that son of that imam married to a Hindu?
No. I'm very happy. But then that son, that imam doesn't have other people to give fatwa that you don't marry non-Muslims. My only question is that he should not give fatwas to others. That for me, I am banished from my religion. Why? Because I did get married to somebody who's not a Muslim. So why should I be banished?
Sabiha ma'am, I disagree with you absolutely.
Why?
Because I have a statement from the Jamia Masjid Imam on this particular issue, because he has clearly stated that this is my personal issue and I don't want to take this issue in consideration to any of the fatwas that we issue. And I have a written statement. And I'll tell you.
Listen.
I'll tell you one thing. In that case,
now you said I have never said about anything about imam. What I'm trying to say, my whole community has banished me. Why have they banished? Because I got married to somebody who's not a Muslim. What right they have got to banish me? Who are they to tell me not to come to their mosque, not to come to their gatherings? They cannot.
Vice versa, the current government is now banning inter-religion marriage. Vice versa. See, there are different point to it, ma'am, on this particular issue. See, I disagree because there is a certain aspect to it. But when it comes to the other aspect, probably Can answer to that. But I just brought a point because there was a fatwa issue which came into point. So I said fatwa is something absolutely different, which he actually reiterated multiple times because of his son's marriage.
Saif, I did not say he issued a fatwa. I said
he still issues.
They issue fatwa saying that you should not get married to a non-Muslim. They means the entire ulema we are talking about.
So the imam, because I am joining from England, so I'm quite excited about this. So Imam's son married to a Hindu, but Imam says Muslims should not marry non-Muslim.
Yes, all the ulemas, they disagree with anybody else getting married to a especially the girls getting married to a non-Muslim. That I'm not talking that Sayyid Bukhari said so, but normally you go to if I go to an ulema and I say that I want to get married to a Hindu fellow, what is he going to say? No, it's not allowed. Either you convert him into Islam or you forget our religion. So this is what I'm talking about. This is what we're talking about.
I think it is a bit unorthodox. I also believe intercultural and interreligious marriage, because it brings people closer.
Of course.
Imagine you just put people in their own islands.
Of course, sir.
I think it just makes intolerance, even worse.
Yes.
So people should interact. And in Britain, I'm quite proud. There is this white man married to a black woman, or Indian guy married to people from other color or other religion. And I think this is good for humanity. So it is bringing everybody closer. Tausif, what do you think? Should people marry from other people of other faith and religion?
Absolutely. There is an hadith which Sahabas have had marriages in inter-religion. Sahabas have married. There are people who are married and they have, the reason is it was the whole tribe which gets converted into, why it happens? Because they start loving the religion. It is not because superimposing the religion on them. It is because loving the religion, it is their choice. If they don't have the choice, why will they do it? See, superimposing and going by a choice is a different opinion altogether. There are Sahabas who've done that.
Should we ask?
Tausif, I agree. A.R. Rahman got converted because he was falling in love with Islam. Agreed. 100%. No doubt about it. We have a very international Oscar-winning musician, Hakan sir, who was a Hindu. His name was Dilip Kumar. And he got converted into Islam with his mother. And he got married to a Hindu. And he's a total, absolute, devout Muslim. So if you fall in love with a religion, you must get converted. That is what I'm trying to say.
Tausif, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You said people at the time of Prophet had inter-religion marriage and they converted. Should they convert? Can they stay as they are?
See, it is their choice.
No, sorry.
It is their choice. Again, it is their choice. There has been times when there was a marriage and they have married, but they have led their life in such a way that they have converted. It is not their it is not their superimposition. It is only because they have guided them the right way. See, guiding and training and giving them the option of what is right and what is wrong is something that we will have to agree. See, disagreeing is always there, but somebody who's not knowing what is right and what is wrong, helping them understanding what is right and wrong, and then they take the choice, then I believe that that's the right way to do it.
You know, when people came to Rūmī Peace Institute, they asked the right regime for Islam. I said, democracy is the precondition for Islam. They said, what do you mean? I said, because Islam is all about exercising your irade juz'i, free will. If it is a precondition or if it is imposed upon you, you are not a true believer because you accept it by force. You have to use your free will to choose. That's why I think Islam needs democracy.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it is not true Islam because it is hypocrisy. Because people, they say, okay, we are Muslim because we are feared. You are invading our country and you got the power. No, this is not right Islam. So you should have healthy democracy, and I think you should have people exercising their free will. I think when it comes to marriage, you shouldn't put it as a precondition. I mean, you marry the person. If they choose, they choose. Choosing is the essence of religion anyway. So if they don't choose, if you force upon them, it is not, the true religion. Anyway, very exciting stuff. Let's move on. Behzad, have you got any other speakers?
Yeah, I think Urusa wanted to say something. Urusa?
Oh, okay. Good morning, sir. It has been it has been quite an interactive session. Apart from the lecture that you gave, I was very, there are lots of things I want to say to what Sabiha ma'am said, but basically 2 points that I want to make. First point being that if you are willing to marry a person outside of your religion, whether it's a Hindu marrying a Muslim, vice versa, regardless of the particular gender or the particular religion that we are bringing into, you are choosing to marry that person, then why are you so adamant on putting both the things together? I mean, if that is not a consideration for you, it should not be a consideration at all. Why are you even getting into that conversation when that conversation does not matter to you? It does not matter to you, does not matter to your partner. What it should be an effective dialogue and an effective consultation between the two partners. And if they are not on the same page, then we know, then they can choose their respective paths. But if you are on the same page, be an example, do what you want to do. Why are you wanting to change the paradigms that are there in place for that entire interaction? You are doing the exact opposite of what you don't want others to do. You are setting the rules of that engagement, of that exchange and that dialogue. You cannot tell people how they want to go about a certain thing. You want to tailor something to suit your needs, do it, be it. That is the beauty of Islam, I think. But at the same time, you cannot ask same people to validate that for you. If that does not suit me, I will not ask you that it should not also suit you. Does not suit me, does not suit my partner, we are on our own. But if it suits other people, let them be. Why are you imposing on them what you don't want to be imposed on yourself? And about conversion, Islam nowhere talks about forceful conversion, whether it's for the man or the woman, it needs to be with the pure intention of both. If it's not with pure intention, if they are converting simply for the reason that they can marry, then nikah is not valid. It is not valid. It is not valid at all. And I'll say it again, whether it's a man or it's a woman. So they are anyhow not doing anything to fall into that thing that you're talking about. And second thing, what ma'am mentioned about police brutality, and I don't know why she would equate it with what's happening in Kashmir. It's my perspective with due regards to what Sabiha ma'am thinks. But ma'am, there is a massive, massive, massive difference. And I'm not talking from an academic perspective, my lived experience. There is a massive difference between police brutality and militarization. Police brutality, whether it's from the prism of Black Lives Matter or whether what happens in the Indian context. I have lived in New Delhi for 6 years and I know what you're talking about when you talk about police brutality. But there is a massive difference between militarization, military occupation, dispossession, demographic transition than police brutality. These are not comparable and they will never be comparable. It is a massive disservice that we will be doing to people who are undergoing both police brutality as well as militarization, to put them on the same platform. You cannot, I do not think any one of us is in the position to be equating these two things together. Police brutality, obviously murder, George Floyd's recent case in America, it is very, very unfortunate that a young Black man had to die because of the entire rhetoric of white supremacy that is on rise in Europe and other Western countries, including the US. But it is in no way comparable to the 7-decade-long occupation that is in place in Kashmir or in context of Palestine. Elsewhere, even in the Irish context, very close. Even the things that happened in Ireland during the 80s and the 90s till very early 2000s, it is in no way comparable to that. I do not think that we should put both of them on the same platform. Both are unfortunate, should not happen in their own respective ways, but they are not comparable. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So, Behzat, how are we doing in terms of timing and participation? Are we...
Yes, it's going well. If there are no more questions or comments, we can conclude here. Or if you have something to add, you can as your final remarks and conclude maybe.
I think I'll wrap up. I was excited about this session because this is unlike what I do in my other teachings, reading of the PowerPoint because there's an exam at the end of it. I wanted this to be interactive, and I think we have achieved it. A lot of people, express their views, and we actively engage in dialogue. This is amazing. So we disagreed. This is fine. Dialogue doesn't mean everybody agrees on everything. Yeah, we disagree. We have different positions, but at least we talk, without shooting at each other. So I just wrap it up. We just exceeded time slightly. I have personally enjoyed the session. I have learned new things. It's been great pleasure meeting you guys. We never know, we may meet again. Thanks for putting up with me for like 130 minutes. Well done. So everybody's still in the room, all 25. Congratulations. I wish you all the best, all the success in your studies. Yeah, that's me done. Behzat, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hakan Gok, for joining us today. It was a wonderful session, and I am sure everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you again for joining us.